8 Walking Dead characters Rick Grimes needs to reunite with before the franchise ends throughout The Walking Dead. Rick Grimes, Andrew Lincoln, meets a series of characters who change him, and he must reunite with them before the franchise comes to an end. While many of those closest to Rick didn't make it through the show, there are those who did. Rick must see these characters at least once before the franchise finishes. Andrew Lincoln's decision to leave The Walking Dead in Season 9 created an unfinished storyline for the show's protagonist. While it may have been a relatively emotional and fitting end, Rick will return in The Walking Dead, the ones who live, and, therefore, has to have a reunion with important characters after Rick's disappearance. A lot changed in the universe with the introduction of new characters and locations, as well as big character deaths. Despite all these changes, there are some characters who still hold a huge level of importance to him, the kind that never gave up on Rick returning one day. While he may not reunite with everyone in his 2024 spin-off show, The Walking Dead story should not finish without giving Rick some sort of closure. With his return to the franchise not far away, here are 8 Walking Dead characters Rick Grimes needs to reunite with before it ends. Rick met Maggie, Lauren Cohan, back in Season 2 of The Walking Dead, and they survived so much of the apocalypse together. While Rick has always been a leader, Maggie learned many of her leadership skills from Rick, becoming one of the most capable survivors in the entire show. She became Hilltop's leader, largely through what she had learned from Rick and her father, who was a huge mentor to the show's protagonist. The loss of Glenn, Stephen Young, also impacted both characters significantly. Given the journey both characters have been on, it would be fitting for Rick to see Maggie again, given how much they've impacted each other's lives. Carol, Melissa McBride, had one of the biggest character developments throughout the entirety of the series. She made her first appearance in the 3rd episode of the show and survived the finale. Rick and Carol had a strained relationship throughout the show, with Carol being kicked out of the group by Rick earlier in the series before reuniting. His indirect involvement in Carol's daughter's death was among Rick Grimes' biggest Walking Dead fails. Even with all this history, the two were close friends by the time Rick disappeared. A reunion between the two needs to happen, given they have known each other since the beginning of the series. With Morgan being the very first character Rick meets in The Walking Dead, one last reunion is a necessity between the two. Morgan has returned and left the show on various occasions, ending up on Fear the Walking Dead, which he left to find Rick. Being unaware of Rick's missing status or the change to Alexandria means Morgan's story still has more layers. With the two starting the series together, both need to reunite to finish their stories. Morgan has been a mainstay in the universe and one of the central characters across 2 shows, meaning he must find Rick for both to come full circle.